Hello. So this will be a short video. This is my 12th vlog. It is a new month, same old shit. What is the same old shit? Well, I don't feel well. I haven't been feeling well. I've been in a sort of a spiral the last 7, 8 months or so. Can't really get back on track. Don't know why. Um, I don't have my doctor's appointment till next month with my specialist, my ME literate guy or whatever. Um, this Emmy Awareness Month just ended, and this month is more geared towards a project that looks like they're trying to get people to, by people I mean Jon Stewart and John Oliver, to cover Emmy as the greatest medical scandal of all time. So they're trying to get them to do exposés on it. My thoughts on this initially are that sure, but it'd be better, for example, if they understood like that Jon Stewart's greatest probably um, achievement has not been what he has done on his show, right? He had like for whatever I think about the government or whatever the case may be, he was a big because he's a New Yorker, but also just because he's an American as well, right? He got the 9/11 first responders adequate healthcare coverage and benefits, and shamed sort of Congress or at least the subcommittee that was handling their the specific uh, allocation of funds to actually make sure that they recognize that their illness, that a lot of the cancers that these people were, these first responders were accumulating, was from the buildings collapsing and them having to clean it up and them having to go in and having to deal with the toxic fumes. The same thing with the people who suffer Gulf War syndrome. They had to in the toxic fucking tar pits that were over in the Middle East. They had to fight to get recognition that was a real thing, right? So that to me seems to be more relevant than trying to get them to do some sort of piece that's just going to go away. Remember, these are serialized weekly shows. They're going to do one piece and then that's it. Yeah, a couple million people will see it because I think John Oliver's show gets like millions of views. Um, when he does an expose on something. Depends on what it is. Um, he would be the most entertaining person to do it. Jon Stewart would be the most, I think, um, he would be the most pragmatic choice in terms of his ability and the connections that he's already made within the halls of Congress to get up in front of them and shame them, especially the NIH, in terms of their neglect about this illness. Will he care about it? I don't know because he doesn't really have a connection to it. His connection to the firefighters was that he lives in New York, right? And 9/11 happened while he was working on the Daily Show, while he was working at the Daily Show in New York. Not a huge shock that he would be for the firefighters and he would take this up as his cause, right? Uh, would he do it for MEC? Would he go to bat for us in the same way he went to bat for them? Unlikely. But it's probably if I had to choose between the two, I would choose Jon Stewart because he's already made a difference for a ton of people who were suffering and were needlessly suffering at that, right? And I'm not saying we're not heroes, but I mean, running into a burning building that's going to collapse it's heroic. I don't care what your opinions on 9/11 are. It's still, I don't care about anyone's conspiracy theories about who did it or who didn't do it. I don't care. Those people were called to do something. They ran into that building, and they didn't even think twice about doing it. And a lot of people died on that day, especially the innocent people who were obviously victims of the attack, and also the people who ran into the building, and then the aftermath of it as well. So, can we get something like that? I don't know. Can we frame MECFS as a 40-year-long 9/11? Maybe, but like I think it's not as like dramatic as 9/11 played out. Everyone saw it on live television. We're hidden from society. These are just not the same things, you know. That's what's problematic about MECF is that we're not visible. You know, the people who are visible are people like me who are still well enough to talk into a microphone and yap around, and you know, whereas people who are the more severe end of it, they can't do this. You know, so you know they're not as visible, and those are the cases that need to be really brought to light more than anything. Like if, but you know, like uh, uh, there was that guy. I think he passed away. His name was 80 or RD Barker or something like that, and he had ALS, and he was an advocate, and he used to go to Congress and try to get like Medicare for all kind of things, so he can get covered. So people like him can get coverage for things that he probably needed. Like either like home health care or whether it's eventually like some sort of machine that would probably help him breathe because it gets harder the disease progresses for your diaphragm to work properly and stuff like that, or just anything in general like that. And even with someone who has ALS was able to attend those in his and he was doing it in the very later stages of his ALS, where he's having to use like a wheelchair that he can only basically move it with like a finger, and like he can only talk by using like his eyelids basically and controlling like a screen so it would type out what he needs to say because he can't talk, he can't speak anymore because the muscles in his vocal cords have completely collapsed or just become atrophied or whatever, and so someone with severe MECFS or very severe MECFS obviously couldn't go to a congressional meeting, and how would that even work? Right. So we do need surrogates, someone to do that. Right. It doesn't necessarily have to be Jon Stewart, but it could be someone of that equivalent. So I think the real takeaway is that we need surrogates. Right now, you would say to yourself, well, we need surrogates with like some juice, some media clout or something like that. And so yeah, I understand that. So Jon Stewart would be my preferred choice if I had to do it, but I'll take anyone, to be honest with you. On a different note, just some things that I noticed. Like I this is completely off topic, but I was watching that stupid fucking Pop-Tart movie with Jerry Seinfeld and whatever. And I was thinking to myself, like, how fucking bad movies have we gotten? I love movies so much, and like I have little to do sometimes but watch films. So I was watching this morning. I watched the King of Kong, which is this great documentary about that was made in 2006, 2007 about the battle over like who can get the highest score in Donkey Kong, the arcade game or whatever. And so I was watching that. I was like, oh, that was a great documentary. And it's as in terms of how documentaries go, it's not that great, but it's like overall, it's very good. It's like entertainment value. But like I was watching like this fucking shitty fucking movie with Jerry Seinfeld, and I was like, oh man, this fucking sucks. I was like, there's like no entertainment value in it. It's literally just a product placement film. It makes for like a 6-minute maybe sketch, but they somehow extended it to like 88 minutes or 82 minutes or however long the fuck it is. It was fucking dreadful. I always thought Seinfeld was like a good comedian, and then in the last like 20, 30 years, I've just changed my mind. I was like, he fucking sucks. He stinks. It was like someone described it perfectly. It was Seinfeld basically made a hostage video or film movie or whatever with a 90-minute hostage film with people who are way more talented than he is, and turned it into some sort of movie about fucking breakfast cereals or something, right? And that's what it felt like, because like he had all these other, like, I'm not gonna say more famous, but probably more talented comedians and actors and actresses than he is, and he puts them in there, and it's almost like this humiliation ritual, you know, like where he like makes them like do like things that like they would never do, like, and so it's like what he thinks is funny is like most corny shit in the world. And it's here's the thing: if it's probably made for kids in reality, because like Seinfeld is like he's like a 12-year-old, right? Everything he enjoys is from 1965. You know, everything he remembers is from the 60s, and so his brain is still like in this arrested development. So he probably still uses like toothpaste from that era, or fucking he's fucking. I don't know if you've ever seen like his documentary Comedian, which is about like his like attempt to come back as like a stand up after Seinfeld, but like he's like singing like old tunes from like Nestle or something like that. His mind is just like rotted by like he talks about he shits on fucking younger generations. He is a walking fucking zombie for fucking consumerism. Like his whole brain is just addled with jingles and song tunes and corporate logos and spot. I mean, it's no wonder he was attracted to show business, right? He's a perfect pitch man for everything. Remember those old Amex commercials that he did, right? So, anyways, fuck him. He fucking sucks, and his politics fucking suck too. You know, no matter what you. I don't really get into the whole Israel Palestine thing, but like I saw him do an interview with Barry Weiss or something like that, and he was like getting all choked up about like I went to Israel and like all I connected with it all of a sudden. And I was like, uh, you were born in New York. That's like me going to fucking Osaka and being like, oh, I could feel my grandfather's pain here. And I was like, and you know, and I could feel deep inside me that fucking fish that he once caught. I was like, no, why? Like, I'm not. I don't. Have, there's no It's so overly saccharine. This guy who pretends to be like, I'm a no nonsense. I don't. Kowtow or whatever, and he gets all weepy over fucking what visiting the Western Wall or something. Like, fuck him. Like, come on. I have nothing. And by the way, I have nothing against Israelites or Jewish people or Palestine. I have nothing against anyone, but it's just like you have no connection to this place. None. Zero. Zilch. Nothing. You're a Jewish American. Like just like I say, I'm an Asian and Italian American, but I have no connection to these fucking countries. I consider myself an American. You know, the first time I fucking got like emotional was when I went to Washington D.C. And I was like, what? And by the way, I fucking hate the government. But like I saw like all the monuments and I saw like all like our history, and that's when I got choked up. And I was like, that's what you should be getting choked up. America's a very romantic kind of like place on some level. I mean, it has its problems and its history is fraught with dog shit stuff, you know, like that has happened to other people. But like, I don't know, America's awesome. I think America's great. I don't I think America is a great country. I don't care what anyone says. Um, Other countries are great too, by the way. I'm not saying other countries are great. But I like America. I don't get weepy for other countries that I have nothing to do with, that I wasn't born in, that I have no connection to, and I don't know how I got off into this tangent about from Pop Tarts to fucking patriotism. I'm not even patriotic, by the way. I lack like all patriotism. I just like living here because I've been around this country. I've been this country's beautiful. Our country's fucking beautiful, right? The Midwest is fucking beautiful. The fucking Southwest is beautiful. New England's beautiful. It's a lot of our country's beautiful. You know, some of it hasn't even been settled yet. You know, that's why I love Westerns so much. That's why I love Western films so much. You know, I was watching all these westerns the last couple of weeks. I was watching these John Ford movies, these Anthony Mann movies, the Howard Hawks films and stuff like that. And I was just thinking, oh God, I just wish they could just make a good fucking western again. And they can't do it. It's all fucking dog shit. Um, But anyway, Seinfeld's movies suck. Netflix gave that guy $70 million, and they won't give John Waters, who's been trying to make this movie. I forgot what it's called. Sassy Mouth or something. I forgot what it's called. But anyway, he's been trying to make this movie for a while, and they won't give him the money for it. And I'm just like, God damn it! He's like our Orson Welles. Orson Welles couldn't get a fucking dime to make his films. Unfortunately, one of our greatest cinematic minds, and he couldn't get any money to make his films. And the other thing I wanted to talk about very briefly, only for a couple minutes, because I don't want this to go on forever, is I've been watching the WNBA because I hadn't watched it in a while. When I was younger, I watched the first 4 or 5 seasons because I was enthralled by dynasties. I grew up in the dynastic era, right? Everything was a dynasty, right? The Bulls were a dynasty. In the hockey, it was the Pittsburgh Penguins or the Island, not the Islanders, the Oilers, or if it was football, it was the Cowboys, or if it was racing, it was Dale Earnhardt or something. It was all these. I grew up in the era of dynasty, so growing up, the first dynasty in the WNBA was the Houston Comets. Right, and so I was like, oh wow, I was a big Cynthia Cooper fan, Cheryl Swoop. I think Tina Charles was on that team, and so anyways, there weren't a lot of teams back then either, right? And also I grew up in Connecticut, so the UConn's women's team were just becoming big, right? The Tennessee Volunteers, led by Pat Summitt, were the big powerhouse in women's basketball, and then UConn became the big powerhouse. So in Connecticut didn't have any professional teams other than the Hartford Whalers, and they left and they became the Carolina Hurricanes, and so all we had was college basketball, and so I was already kind of a fan of women's basketball before it became cool and oddly politicized, right? And so I would watch it and I would think to myself, oh, this is actually entertaining. There's no dunking, and there's no as much as they get the product gets kind of shit on, and sometimes the women do it to themselves by saying we should be getting paid as much as the men. And I was like, should you though? It's I don't know. It's not as good as a product as the NBA, right? You could make it better, though. Here's a way they could make it better in reality, right? So part of it is the media coverage, which they're doing a better job at. Right, they're playing up rivalries. They're playing up their rookies and the new face. They're trying to put a face onto the WNBA, which they've always had a problem with. And some of that has a lot to do with sexism kind of thing. You could be an ugly looking motherfucker in WNBA and the NBA don't matter, right? As long as you're good. Nikola Jokic is not like Brad Pitt, but he could be the face of the NBA. Right, or Luka Doncic, or something like that. They could be the faces of the league. Even Michael Jordan, he's a good-looking guy, but he's not a model or anything like that. But he could be the face of the league because he's the best player, right? Whereas the best player in the WNBA, unless they're some sort of goddess or something like that, they're not going to make them the face of the league. And the other aspect of it is that it's if there's not going to be dunking, for example, they should add something a little bit more, and I hate to say it, gimmick to it. There should be a 4-point line. If there's not going to be dunking, make a 4-point line. How interesting that! They're not going to do it in the NBA because the NBA they're already shooting from fucking 35 feet away sometimes. So this spot's pointless, and they could already dunk. But make a 4-point line. That's interesting, right? And now, especially you have Caitlin Clark in the league, and she can presumably just shoot it from pretty much anywhere on the court. And I think that's becoming more commonplace, actually. Make a 4-point line. You have to get the scoring up, I think, and you have to get a little bit more spacing, I think. And also, too, I think the way they make their schedule, it doesn't allow them a lot of time for training, um, and it doesn't allow them a lot of time. Like so, like when I watch the games, for example, like they're the WNBA players aren't quite as agile or dexterous as or dexterous as the male players, and I think a lot of that has less to do with like biology, gender stuff, as it does to do with they don't have time to train, right? They don't have the best trainers on the planet, you know, because I've seen like women athletes like in like the Olympics and they're fucking beasts, right? Like the runners or something like that, or people like doing shop, like they're just absolute. So like, but they have time to do that, right? Whereas in the WNBA, like you go from the March Madness ends, and then they go straight to the draft, and then like a week later they're playing their league. Like there's no time, there's no downtime to rest. There's no time, so these people are already tired. Whereas like, and they don't have time to like do off season training or whatever, and then they're sometimes it's, you know, for a while they were, you know, their salaries were not allowed them to just to do that as their occupation. So they're doing other jobs, and sometimes they get pregnant, and that takes something out of them. And so like they don't have like, the same advantages as men do as being able to like have like the best trainers and the best whatever. So that is also I think something that would benefit them if they were in like peak physical condition. The game would look a little bit better. They would be in better physical shape. They would. They could do more strength conditioning kind of things. And then you wouldn't have to rely on dunking. It would just become a more physical game, and it would look cleaner. Like, 'cause some of the games look very sloppy. There's a lot of turnovers. There's a lot of um, just like fumbling around like the basket. Whereas like in the NBA, it's a lot more accurate. Like the best shooters are shooting like over 50% a lot of the time, and everything's a lot more smoother, and their just conditioning is just better, and that's just because of the way their scheduling works. And again, like they have the best of everything. So it's like if the WNBA had a little bit of that, and their scheduling wasn't just like overlapping with like the NBA end of the NBA season, and it wasn't just like what is it, like 35 games or something like that a year, and then they will have to most of them have to go play overseas. You know, like I'm sure they're just dog ass tired by the time the WNBA season. The WNBA season is like almost like a part time job for them. You know, on some level. So, anyways, those are the only thoughts I had. I just some thoughts I had rumbling around in my head. I mean, I hope the WNBA succeeds. It's entertaining. It's actually a good product. It's like the first time I've been interested in it back in for years. Uh, but it's become like overly politicized rather than like trying to figure out like how to make the game better. It's become about all these like gender politics and race politics and like like tribal stuff, and it's just like that's not good. I was like, that's not what like Bird and Magic really was about per se. Um, Bird and Magic was about like East Coast, West Coast, you know, LA glamour versus like blue collar New England kind of stuff. You know, it was less politicized than it was today, and it was good for the game because it was these teams were always meeting in the finals. Um, they were the two best players in the league, and there just wasn't social media around for people to over exaggerate things and uh, you know, impose an agenda on something that is good for the game, which is rivalries. And because remember the league was dying at the time, and these two injected a lot of life back into it. So, anyways, I'm not really too much into sports nowadays, anyways. But like when I do occasionally watch it or pay attention to it, I just always hope it's not like dog shit. Like I have to like wade through people's political views on it before I get to like actual like just like people who are just enjoy the sport for what it is. Sports are great. Sports are great for. I wish I could still do it. You know, I like to live vicariously through these people because I wish. Sometimes I'll watch them play sports. I mean, I still love playing basketball. You can't tell it because I'm sitting down, but I'm like 6'3", and I used to love just going out there and shooting, hooping them with the boys and with the girls sometimes, whatever, doesn't matter. And I used to love doing it. Can't do it anymore. So, anyways, that's pretty much all I have. New month, same old shit. So I'll see you next blog. Bye.